For 10 long years, the lands of Akwaimu and Denchira had been feuding and warring. The war, once a mere dispute over land, had grown into an unquenchable inferno of hatred, fueled by vengeance, loss, and the pride of their rulers. The forests bore witness to the endless cycle of war drums and battle cries, and the river that separated the two villages carried the whispers of fallen warriors. Kwame Jc, son of Akwaimu's feared chief, had been raised to hate the people of Denchira. From the time he could hold a spear, he was trained to be a warrior, to defend his people, to strike without hesitation. His father, Chief Nana Kofi Jc, was unyielding, a man whose heart had turned to stone after losing his own brother to the enemy's blade. But even as Kwame fought with skill and loyalty, he felt the weight of something deeper, something missing, a question he dared not ask. On the other side of the river, Abena Anchwiwa, daughter of Chief Nana Ya Anchwiwa of Denchira, had grown weary of war. Unlike her mother, the fierce and calculated leader who ruled with wisdom and iron, Abena had no taste for battle. She spent her nights tending to the wounded, her hands stained with the blood of both friend and foe. She had seen too much loss, too many mothers wailing over their sons. And yet, in a world that demanded loyalty above all, she knew her heart was no longer her own to control. Fate twisted their paths together on a fateful night. Kwame, wounded in battle, stumbled into the thick forest that lined the border of their lands. Blood trickled from his side, his breath ragged, his vision blurred. He should have passed on there, but when he opened his eyes, he found himself staring into the gaze of an enemy, Abena. She should have left him to fate. He should have fought her to his last breath. Instead, they stood frozen in the silence of the trees, listening to nothing but the sound of their own pounding hearts. Abena made her choice first. Kneeling beside him, she pulled out her pouch of healing herbs and pressed them against his wound. Kwame, stunned, could do nothing but watch as the woman he had been taught to hate saved his life. He did not speak, neither did she, but something unspoken passed between them, something that would change the course of their destinies forever. In the nights that followed, they met again. At the river, beneath the cloak of darkness, they sat together, speaking in hushed voices about their worlds, their burdens, their longing for something more. They were opposites in every way, and yet, in each other, they found the only truth that made sense. It was in those stolen moments, where the moon was their only witness, that love took root. But love in a time of war is a dangerous thing. As whispers of an impending attack spread, Kwame was given a direct order to lead Akwaimu warriors in a surprise raid on Denchira's borders. Meanwhile, Abena was summoned before her mother, where she was told she would be married to one of Denchira's strongest warriors, a man chosen to strengthen their alliances. The walls were closing in. They had been naive to think their love could exist in the shadows forever. The night before the battle, they met for what they feared would be the last time. Their hands trembled as they exchanged tokens. Kwame gave Abena a carved wooden comb, a symbol of his devotion, and Abena tied a woven bracelet of red and gold beads around his wrist, a silent vow that she would never forget him. But as they whispered their final goodbyes, betrayal lurked in the darkness. They had been followed, from the shadows. Kwame's closest friend, Kojo, and Abena's childhood companion, Essie, emerged, their faces filled with shock and fury. Their love, their secret, had been exposed. By dawn, the news had spread like wildfire. Abena was dragged before her mother, accused of treason, while Kwame was bound and brought before his father. Their punishment was death. The sky was dark when they were led to the execution ground. Warriors stood in rows, their faces painted in the colours of war. Drummers beat a slow, haunting rhythm, and the villagers gathered, their eyes burning with anger and sorrow. Abena and Kwame were forced to kneel, their hands tied behind their backs, their gazes locked in silent defiance. They had known love, even if only for a moment, and that was worth more than any fear of death. But fate had one final twist. As the executioners raised their blades, Elder Afori, the wisest seer of Akwaimu, stepped forward, his voice echoing through the crowd. He spoke of a vision, of a truth buried in the past. The war, the endless bloodshed, had been built on a lie that had turned two villages into enemies, a lie crafted by those who profited from conflict. He told of a betrayal long forgotten, of innocent blood spilled for greed, of ancestors who wept in the afterlife for the foolishness of their children. The ground trembled. A great storm rolled in, winds howling like the voices of the dead. Thunder cracked, shaking the land. And in that moment of hesitation, Kwame and Abena moved. They stood side by side, facing both their people and their executioners, their voices ringing loud and clear. If love is a crime, then let the gods judge us. For the first time in 10 years, silence fell upon Akwaimu and Denchira. The warriors lowered their weapons. The people who had lost brothers, fathers, sons to this war looked upon the two standing before them and saw not traitors but hope. Chiefs who had once only known revenge saw, for the first time, the price of their hatred. And in that moment, the war ended. Kwame and Abena, their bodies bruised but their spirits unbroken, walked away from the battlefield together. Not just as lovers, but as the bridge between two nations. They had defied fate. They had defied war. And in doing so, they had carved a new path, one where love could rise from the ashes of war. For generations to come, the story of Kwame and Abena would be told. A story not of war, but of love that refused to bow to hatred. The blood oath they made beneath the silk cotton tree had not been a promise of death, but of life, together, against all odds.